supposed to go like this, because today I decided to start actually this vlog about photography, and I thought I will take the guys out with me because today is a beautiful sunny day in Finland. I think actually the first after many days, many weeks or many months of grey sky. So I picked up my camera, I packed everything, and I was having fun filming around, but I lost the boat that would take me to the island when I actually wanted to do the shot. And next boat will be like in 15 minutes. Problem is that the sun is going to set pretty early, because usually it sets about 4 o'clock. The blue hour is still there until maybe 5 or 5:30, I don't know. So let's see if I can get there in time to get some nice pictures. Also because I don't know what are the spots of the island, so I have to walk around a little bit, and when I find something interesting I will stop. And so let's see how it goes.
Time for some Wikipedia. Suomenlinna is an abandoned military fortress built on 6 islands in front of Helsinki. The Swedish crown used it as a scouting site against the Russian army. However, the Russians managed to conquer Finland in 1808, and now, 2 centuries later, it is a beautiful World Heritage Site, packed with amazing rocky beaches for landscape lovers.
So here we are on the island. We just landed, and I have in mind a couple of positions that I looked on Google Maps, because this is something that you have to take into account. I went on Google Maps and I don't know the island, but I know that the sun will set at west. So I took note of all the beaches or rocky coasts that face west, hoping for some sunset. And I have all the spots on my phone. So right now I'm going to the first place. Let's see if we have some nice position, foreground, or anything else that help us get good pictures.
Well, here we are on the first spot that I chosen, and as you can see, I go down onto the beach, and I'm using this nice and wonderful coast as a leading line, and there are also some nice rocks in the foreground that will help the eye to have some kind of direction, hoping that the coastline will lead the viewer to the top, where there is actually the action of the sunset. Hello everyone, welcome back, and now we will review the photos that I took on the island. Most importantly, we will see what worked, what didn't work, and what I learned from this session. Now let's go to Lightroom, and I will start by saying that the take-home message of this session, at least what I learned, is that sometimes you need to go vertical landscapes, and you have to know when it's worth going vertical, when it's worth going horizontal. And the reason is because sometimes you have to think about what kind of movement you want to create, what lines do you want the eye of the viewer to follow. Sometimes it's horizontal lines, if you think about all that magnificent landscapes where you have mountains all over, maybe big lake with nice reflections, interesting sky. But some other time when you don't have all of those elements and you face this kind of scenario where you have a pretty nice scene because everything looks calm and so grateful, and you have a nice connection between the color of the water, which is almost identical to the color of the sky. The only thing is that this is broken by the horizon. So let's say that in this case the movement of the picture is from the bottom to the top, where you have this nice progression and contrast between white and light part, broken by an horizontal black or dark part, and then you get again this sky which is light. So if instead of taking a picture like this, I would just take a picture like this, then you would have an horizontal framing, which would be maybe the traditional for landscape. But now everything looks compressed because the natural movement that I have created into this picture, which is progression from white to black to white, it's compressed in a much more reduced space. Therefore, my eye really doesn't want to do this movement, but rather wants to follow the horizon, but on the horizon there's nothing really interesting. So in this case, I think the picture loses a lot, while this kind of composition, it's much better. So I started to think on the island, okay, does my eye wants to follow an horizontal movement? Like for example, in this case, I have another horizontal landscape where I have some elements like a rock here, some rocks over here that lead my eye on the top. But really, when I flipped my camera and I took this kind of picture, it looked like a totally different scene, because now I have more power to draw the eye of the viewer into the scene. Not only because the format and the crop of the image is vertical, but also because I add the different elements. For example, there are these two rocks over here that almost create some kind of natural door where you almost want to walk inside, and you are basically led by these rocks right to the horizon, which is where the action is happening. And I have also another picture which is kind of similar, and I don't think it works that much. This is another horizontal landscape where I have some foreground element, and then I have this coast which leads the eye to the horizon. The image is blown out. I might process it, but this video is not really about processing, it's just talking about composition and get things right on composition in the first place. And I think that probably this might work, therefore I took a panorama picture, and I have to say, even though it's not my favorite, it might work. Just because in this picture probably there's a little bit of different movement, because now the foreground, it doesn't go vertical but it goes horizontal, and then it goes back from this mountain over here. However, I think if I compare this picture over here, just draws the viewer much better into the scene rather than this one. It might be also about the processing, I don't know, but I think just compositionally wise, I was just shocked to see how better it works. This when you have some elements, and then I just moved my camera on the side, and I had now not only the three rocks in the foreground with some elements leading everything on top, but I also now have the side of the coast, which is basically vertical and just leading the eye to the top left third of the picture, which would have never worked if I would just have taken a picture like this where I have an horizontal crop. You have some of the movement which now leads the eye. On this way you have some elements here and elements here, but really you are just compressing what the eye is doing, which is going from here to here. So just give more room to the movement of the eye by having a different kind of crop, and I think the picture acquires much more depth and strength. Then I passed by the very beautiful lighthouse which is on the island of Somelina, and I had the bridge over here, and then I just tried to take a horizontal landscape. Now this is a panorama which has three different pictures stick together, and I think while compositionally it has some elements of interest, like the reflections, you have the bridge, and then you have the lighthouse with the light on the top, nice blue sky. I think the scene is just too messy. Probably I should have zoomed in, but my kit lens doesn't allow that. So now that I'm looking at that, I realize probably it would have worked if I would have just taken a vertical crop, and now I would just bump up the exposure to let you see what's inside, and really I had this very nice magenta sky over here. And now I think that compared to the other one, this one works much better for two reasons. First, I took out the garbage and all the unnecessary stuff that I had into the view, like this house over here, this big tree over here. Now I'm just focused on leading the eye from the bottom of the picture to the top of the lighthouse, and actually the reflections are helping that. So just cutting them out on an horizontal crop, I think it loses a lot of the force and the strength of this picture. So to wrap around, what I said here is, when you think about how to frame your landscape and how to compose it, not think only about what you have there. If you have a nice lake, a nice river and all the lines, you have to think, if I am a viewer and I'm looking at this picture for the first time, which kind of movement my eye will naturally make? And then you frame your picture accordingly, and you try different ways to maximize the movement of the eye of the viewer so that it gets more interesting for whoever sees your picture. Now, out of this session, if I will pick my favorite photos, it will be these ones. Now we came up to the end of this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something as I did in this session. And if you want me to cover particular topics or just talk about something, please let me know, leave a comment, put a thumbs up or thumbs down if you like or you didn't the video, send me a private message, and please subscribe just to follow my adventure into photography. Here on Newpix, I want to make a channel which is useful not only for me to share my experience, but mostly for you to learn from my mistakes and my discoveries. And this was everything, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great time and take care.